Please, Nia said. Marry our mother. We need a father. The chopsticks stopped moving. Kong set them down slowly across the bowl deliberately, the way a man sets something down when he wants to be very careful about what happens next. Then he looked up. Two girls stood at the edge of his table. Identical in every way. Same dark eyes, wide and serious and completely steady. Same deep brown skin, warm and smooth in the afternoon light coming through the wide restaurant windows. Same small shoulders pulled back with a quiet dignity that had no business sitting on the frame of an 8-year-old. They wore simple clothes, clean, neat braids, small backpacks still on their backs like they had walked in from somewhere with a purpose and had not planned to stay long. They were looking at him the way soldiers looked at a commanding officer before delivering news they were not sure would be welcomed. Neither of them looked away. Behind him he could hear his guards shifting, closing the distance, the way they had been trained to do when someone approached without invitation. He raised one hand slightly. They stopped. He looked at the girls. The one on the right had spoken. She was still leaning forward slightly, chin lifted, holding the words she had just delivered in the air between them like she had no intention of taking them back. The one on the left had her fingers pressed together in front of her, watching him, waiting. He said nothing for a long moment. Then he reached for his glass of water, lifted it, took one slow sip, set it back down. Say that again, he said. The girl on the right did not blink. Please marry our mother. We need a father. He looked at her, then at her sister, then back. What is your name? He said. Nia. He looked at the other one. Mia, she said quietly. How old are you? 8, they said. Together. Same pitch, same timing, same flat certainty, like the number was not just an answer but a piece of evidence they had decided to present. He folded his hands on the table. Why? He said. Would two 8-year-old girls walk into a restaurant in the middle of the afternoon and ask a stranger to marry their mother? Nia looked at him steadily. Because you are not a stranger to this room. Everyone in here knows who you are. And everyone who knows who you are is either working for you or careful around you. She paused. We need someone people are careful around. Behind Kong, Tae made a quiet sound. Kong did not turn around. He kept his eyes on Nia and the corner of his mouth moved in a way that was not quite a smile and not quite nothing. If you are enjoying this story so far, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. There is so much more coming and you do not want to miss a single moment of it. And your mother, he said. She sent you to ask me this. No, said Mia. She does not know we are here, said Nia. She thinks we are in the bathroom. He looked between them. Then who put this idea in your heads? We did, Nia said. Ourselves, Mia added. He leaned back slightly. Why me specifically? Nia glanced once at her sister. Mia gave a small nod, almost invisible, the kind of signal that did not need words because it had been practiced for 8 years without interruption. Nia looked back at Kong. We have been in 6 cities in 2 years, she said. We have sat in a lot of rooms and watched a lot of people. We know what scared looks like and we know what powerful looks like, and they are not the same thing. She tilted her head slightly. When you walked in this afternoon, the whole room shifted. Nobody told it to. It just did. Kong said nothing. That is what we need, Nia said. Someone the room shifts for. Mia nodded once beside her, quietly confirming everything her sister had said. Kong looked at them both for a long moment. Then he turned his head toward the far side of the restaurant. Afternoon light fell in wide warm bands across the room through the floor-length windows. The lunch crowd had mostly thinned. A few tables were still occupied, quiet conversations, the soft clink of cutlery. And near the window on the far wall, sitting alone at a small table with a cup of tea she had not touched in 20 minutes, was a woman. She was facing slightly away, both hands around the cup, her posture very still. She had not looked toward them. Or she was working carefully to appear that way. Her hair was natural, pulled up loosely, a few soft strands catching the warm afternoon light near her face. She wore a deep green blouse, simple, nothing that asked for attention. But she wore it the way some women wore everything, like it had been made for her, and she had simply reached for it without a second thought. The light from the window fell across her hands and her face and made her look like something that belonged in the afternoon and had always been there. Kong looked at her for exactly 1 second. He looked back at the twins. "That is your mother," he said. "Yes," said Mia. He studied them both. Then he stood. The room responded the way it always did. Not with noise. Not with anything visible or loud. Just that quiet collective awareness, the waiter pausing mid-step, the guard straightening without being told, the two businessmen at the nearby table suddenly finding their phones very interesting. He straightened his jacket. "Go back to her," he said. The twins did not move. Mia looked up at him. "You did not say no," she said. He looked at her. "You said go back to her," she said. "That is not the same as no." He held her gaze for a moment. Then he picked up his glass, finished what was left, set it down without sound, and walked toward the woman by the window. He moved without hurrying. The restaurant was not large. In 15 seconds he was standing beside her table. She had not looked up. He waited. She felt it before she saw it. That particular quality of being looked at by someone whose attention had actual weight. She looked up, and the expression on her face came apart and rebuilt itself in the space of a single second. Not with a gasp. Not with any sound at all. It was quieter than that and somehow heavier. Like a door she had locked a long time ago and stopped checking on had just opened on its own in the middle of a calm afternoon. Her hands tightened around the cup. Her eyes, open and completely unguarded for that one unprotected moment, said everything her mouth was not going to say. He looked at her the same way. Completely still. Like a man who had walked into a room he had not expected to find unlocked, and was standing in the doorway deciding what to do about it. "Naomi," he said. Her name came out of him like something that had been sitting in a quiet place inside him for years and had simply decided, without asking permission, that this particular afternoon was when it was going to surface. She set the cup down carefully. She straightened in her seat. She looked at him the way a person looks at something they have been half expecting and completely dreading. "Kong," she said. Just his name. Nothing before it. Nothing after. He pulled out the chair across from her and sat. She did not tell him not to. The twins appeared behind him moments later, sliding into the seats on either side of their mother with the quiet efficiency of children who had spent years learning how to enter rooms without drawing attention. Mia pressed immediately into Naomi's side. Mia sat straight, eyes on Kong, expression carefully composed. Naomi looked at her daughters. Then at Kong. Then at her daughters again. "What did you do?" she said. Her voice was low and controlled, but something ran fast and close beneath it. "We asked him," Mia said simply. "I told you not to approach anyone. You said do not bother anyone." He did not look bothered. Naomi looked at Kong. Kong said nothing. "He came over here himself," Mia continued. "That means it worked." Mia said nothing. She pressed further into her mother's side and watched Kong with her large steady eyes. Kong looked at Naomi the way he had always looked at things he needed to fully understand before deciding what to do with them. She could feel it. She had always been able to feel it. That specific weight of his attention, the way it settled on a person and stayed. "You two know each other," Mia said. Not a question. An observation delivered as fact. "Sit quietly," Naomi said. "We are sitting." "Mia. I am only saying what everyone at this table can already see." Kong looked at the girl. "We have met before," he said. Mia nodded slowly. Like this confirmed something she had already decided. "When?" "A long time ago." Before us, Mia said softly, barely above a whisper. Neither adult answered. Mia looked down at the table. Nia looked at Kong. Did you know her well? Nia said. Nia. Naomi's voice had dropped to something very quiet and very final. I am asking. I know. Stop. Nia stopped. But the expression on her face said clearly that she had already collected more information than she had arrived with, and intended to think carefully about all of it later. Kong looked at Naomi. Why did they come to me? She did not pretend to misunderstand. They overheard something they should not have. They took it further than I would ever have asked them to. This was not my idea. They said you are in trouble. They are children. They worry. They said 6 cities in 2 years. That is not worry. That is a pattern. Naomi's jaw tightened slightly. She looked at Nia. Nia studied the edge of the table. How much did you tell him? Naomi said. Only what was necessary, Nia said. That was not your information to share. It is our life too, Nia said quietly. No sharpness in it. No argument. Just a simple and tired fact spoken by a child who was 8 years old, and had already been asked to understand something about her own life that most people twice her age had never been asked to carry. The table went still. Naomi looked at her daughter for a long moment. Something moved across her face that she did not try to hide or pull back. She reached over and covered Nia's hand with her own. I know, she said softly. I know it is. Mia leaned her head against her mother's arm and closed her eyes briefly. Kong watched the 3 of them. He was quiet for long enough that Tae, standing at a respectful distance, glanced over once to check. Then Kong looked at Naomi directly. Who is following you? He said. She hesitated. Naomi. A man named Daesung Park, she said. The name settled into the room and changed the temperature of it slightly. Tae went very still. Kong did not look back at him. You know him, Naomi said. She had caught the shift. I know of him, Kong said. Then you understand why I did not go to anyone for help. I understand why you did not go to most people, he said. I am not most people. I did not know where you were. You knew how to find me. I knew how to find the version of you from 8 years ago, she said carefully. I did not know who you had become, or whether coming to you would make things better or bring something worse directly to my daughters. He looked at her steadily. And now that you are sitting across from me. She held his gaze for a long moment. I am still deciding, she said. He almost smiled at that. Almost. The afternoon light shifted slightly through the windows, warm and unhurried, falling across the table between them. Outside the street was busy with the ordinary movement of a city in the middle of a Wednesday. People walking. Cars passing. The world going about its business completely unaware of the 4 people sitting by the window, and the 8 years of silence sitting between 2 of them like something solid. Kong looked at Naomi. What does Park want? He said. He wants to make sure I never speak about what I saw, she said. I was working in his company 8 years ago. Junior level administrative. I was not supposed to have access to certain files, but a system error opened them to me for a short window. She looked at her cup. It was enough. What did you see? Enough to end him, she said simply. Names. Transfers. Partnerships with people who would not want those partnerships made public. I did not take anything. I did not copy anything. But he found out I had been in the system, and he decided that was reason enough to never feel safe again. She shook her head slightly. He is the kind of man who does not need certainty. Possibility is enough for him. Have you spoken to anyone about what you saw? No. Not once. Not once in 8 years. Then he is not chasing information, Kong said. He is chasing control. She looked at him. Yes. Men like that do not stop because the threat goes away, he said. They stop when something larger stops them. I know, she said quietly. I have known it for a long time. But knowing something and being able to act on it are very different things when you are alone with two children and no one you fully trust. Kong looked at her for a moment. Then he looked at the twins. Mia was watching him with those large, careful eyes. Mia had her chin resting on one hand, elbow on the table, studying him with an expression that was working very hard to appear casual and not quite managing it. He looked back at Naomi. How long have you been in this city? Since yesterday morning. Where are you staying? A small guest house 2 streets over. Paid in cash. Always. He nodded once. And before this city? Busan. Before that Incheon. Before that 3 cities further south. She said it without drama. Like a list she had recited quietly to herself many times in the dark. I realized 2 weeks ago that we had been moving in a rough circle without meaning to. That is how they found you, he said. She closed her eyes briefly. I know. They would have moved on your location within days. She opened her eyes. I know that too. Mia's hand found her mother's arm under the table. Naomi did not look down, but her hand moved immediately and covered her daughter's. The automatic reach of a woman who had been finding her children in the dark for 2 years and always knew exactly where they were. Nia sat forward. So what do we do? She said. Kong looked at her. You are including yourself in this conversation, he said. It is my life, she said. Same tone as before. Quiet and clear and certain. He looked at her for a long moment. You remind me of someone, he said. Nia waited. He did not say who. He looked back at Naomi. I have one more question. You have had several already, she said. This one is different. He paused. I need you to answer it directly. She looked at him. Something shifted in her expression. A small careful tightening, like a person adjusting their grip on something they had been holding for a very long time and could feel was about to be asked for. Ask, she said. He looked at the twins. Then back at her. How old are they? He said. Exactly. The table went very quiet. Not the ordinary quiet of a pause between sentences. A different kind. The kind that meant everyone sitting there understood that the next words were going to change the shape of something permanently. Naomi's thumb moved slowly across Mia's hand. 8, she said. Their birthday. A pause. March. He looked at her. Early March, she said softly. Kong sat very still. 8 years old. Born in early March. Conceived approximately 9 years ago. Which meant the last time he had seen this woman, the last time she had been in his life before disappearing without explanation, was not simply the last time. It was the only time that now mattered. He looked at the twins. Nia was watching him. She had been watching him this entire time, and he realized now with complete clarity that she had never been watching him the way a child watches a stranger. She had been watching him the way someone watches a question they have been carrying for years and are finally close enough to answer. Mia had gone very still beside her mother. Her eyes were on Kong, and they were wide and serious, and somewhere deep in them lived something that looked like hope sitting right next to something that looked like fear, and she was holding both with a steadiness that no child should have ever needed to develop. Tae stepped quietly to Kang's shoulder and leaned down. Boss, he said. Very low. Their eyes. The way they hold themselves. Kong said nothing. Tae straightened and stepped back. Kong looked at Naomi. She was looking at him. Not with defiance. Not with apology. With something that was simply the truth, quiet and complete, and no longer possible to keep folded inside the careful small space she had been keeping it in for 8 years. Naomi, he said. Very quiet. Yes, she said. Just that one word. Answering the question he had not finished asking because she had been waiting long enough to know exactly what it was. The afternoon continued outside the window. Warm and ordinary and completely indifferent to what was happening at this table. A city going about its Wednesday. And here in the light, for people sitting with 8 years of silence finally opening between them like a door that had always been there, and had simply been waiting for someone to stop walking past it. Then Nia looked at Kong. "We knew," she said quietly. He looked at her. "Not for certain," she said. "But we thought so. For a long time." She glanced at Mia. Mia gave the smallest nod. Nia looked back at Kong. "That is the other reason we came to you. Not only because you are powerful." She paused. "We wanted to see your face when you looked at us." Kong looked at her for a long time. "And," he said. Nia looked at him steadily across the table in the warm afternoon light. "You looked at us," she said. "Like you were trying to remember something you never let yourself forget." If this story is pulling you in, do not go anywhere. Subscribe to the channel right now, hit the like button, and drop a comment below telling us what you think is about to happen next. We are just getting started and the best part is still coming. The table held Nia's words for a long moment. Kong looked at her, then at Mia, then back at Naomi. Naomi was looking at her hands. Her thumb moved slowly across her knuckles back and forth, the quiet motion of someone keeping themselves anchored while everything around them shifts. 8 years, Kong said. She looked up. "You carried this for 8 years, he said. "Alone." "I had the girls," she said. "That is not what I mean and you know it." She was quiet. "Naomi." "Yes," she said softly. "Alone. I carried it alone." She said it without self-pity, without drama. Just the plain truth of it, laid flat on the table between them like something she had finally stopped pretending was not there. Kong said nothing for a moment. He looked at the window. The afternoon street outside was still busy, still ordinary, still completely indifferent. A woman walked past pushing a stroller. 2 men stood outside a shop talking. A delivery vehicle moved slowly through traffic. He looked back at Naomi. "Why did you not come to me when you found out?" he said. She had been expecting this question. He could tell by the way she did not flinch from it. "Because your world was dangerous," she said. "I had watched what happened to people who got close to men in your position when things went wrong. I was not going to raise a child in the middle of that. They were mine to protect too." "They," Naomi said quietly. "Both of them." Kong went completely still. She looked at him. "I found out it was twins at 8 weeks. I was already gone by then." He looked at her for a long time. Then slowly, with the deliberate care of a man who needed to be completely certain before he moved, he turned and looked across the restaurant at the 2 girls sitting at the next table. They were both watching him. Same eyes, same stillness, same particular way of holding themselves, upright and steady and quietly certain, that he recognized not because he had seen it in them before today but because he had seen it in himself every morning for as long as he could remember. Mia tilted her head slightly. Nia did not move. She just watched him with those dark steady eyes and waited. Kong looked at them for a long time. Something was moving through him that he was not going to name out loud. Not here. Not in this restaurant with afternoon light falling through the windows and strangers at nearby tables. But it was there and it was large and it was quietly rearranging everything inside him that he had believed was permanently fixed. He turned back to Naomi. 8 years, he said again, softer this time. "I know," she said. "I am not saying it as an accusation. I know that too. I am saying it because I need a moment to understand what 8 years actually means." He paused. "What I missed." Naomi pressed her lips together. She looked at her daughters across the room. Mia had leaned over and was whispering something to Nia. Nia was listening with her eyes still on Kong. Whatever Mia said made Nia's expression soften slightly, just briefly, before she composed it again. "They are remarkable," Kong said. Naomi looked back at him. Something in her face opened slightly. "Yes," she said. "They are." Nia argued with me from the moment she opened her mouth. "She argues with everyone," Naomi said. She has since she was 3. And Mia? Naomi's expression softened completely. Mia watches. She takes everything in before she speaks. When she does speak, she usually says the one thing nobody else has thought to say yet. Kong was quiet for a moment. She said, before us. When I told them we had met before. I heard her. She is 8 years old. She has always been older than her age, Naomi said quietly. Both of them have. I used to feel guilty about that. About what growing up the way we have been living did to them. She paused. I still do. Do not, he said. She looked at him. They are not broken by it, he said. They walked into a room full of adults and said exactly what they needed and held their ground until someone listened. That is not damage. That is strength. Naomi looked at him for a long moment. You sound very certain for a man who met them 40 minutes ago. I am certain, he said simply. She looked away. Her hand moved to her cup and then away again without picking it up. I did not come here today to find you, she said. I want you to know that. I was not looking for this. I know. We stopped because the girls were tired. We needed one night to rest before moving on. Where were you going? She hesitated. I did not have a clear destination. I was moving away from the last city more than I was moving toward anything specific. That is not a plan, he said. It was the best I had, she said. And there was no apology in it. Just fact. He nodded once. He respected that. He had always respected that about her, the particular way she held herself accountable without drowning in it. Tae appeared at his shoulder. He leaned down and said something very quietly near Kang's ear. Kang's expression shifted immediately. Not dramatically. Just that small precise change around his eyes that Tae knew meant something had his complete attention. He sat forward slowly. How many? He said. Tae held up 2 fingers. Then after a pause, a third. Naomi had already noticed. She had been watching Kang's face and she saw the shift before he said anything. Her back straightened. Her hands came off the table and settled in her lap. Her eyes moved to the entrance of the restaurant with the quick, practiced efficiency of someone who had learned over 2 years to read a room before a threat fully formed. 3 men had come in. They were not together. Not obviously. They had spread themselves across the entrance with the relaxed positioning of people pretending to arrive separately. One moved toward the far end of the counter. One stood near the door with his phone out, not looking at it. One was moving slowly between tables, scanning, his eyes doing the kind of slow methodical work that had nothing to do with looking for a seat. His eyes stopped when they reached Naomi. She did not move. Across the room, Mia and Nia had already gone quiet. Mia's hand was on her sister's arm. Nia was tracking the man near the door without turning her head, her eyes moving in that careful sideways way that meant she had done this before. Had learned this before. Had spent enough afternoons in enough rooms watching entrances and exits and men with too much purpose in their posture to be simply passing through. She was 8 years old. The anger that moved through Kong at that specific realization was quiet and total and absolute. He did not show it. He looked at Tae. One word. Exits. Tae moved. Kong looked at Naomi. Do not look at them again, he said, low and completely calm. Look at me. She looked at him. Are these the same men who have been following you? I do not know their faces, she said. Her voice was steady, practiced in a way that meant she had needed it to be steady before, and had trained it accordingly. They change the people they send. They keep the method. What is the method? They watch first. They wait until we are somewhere without good options. Then they move. They will not find that here, he said. He did not raise his voice. He did not turn around. He simply looked at his guards with the particular quality of stillness that communicated everything that needed to be communicated without a single unnecessary word. They were already moving. Slowly. unhurried. The way people moved when they knew exactly what they were doing and had no interest in announcing it before it was done. The man who had been scanning the room looked toward Kang's table. He saw Kang looking back at him. Something changed in the man's posture. Small and immediate. The recognition of a person who has just understood that the room they walked into is not the room they thought it was. He looked away. The man near the counter said something without moving his lips. The one at the door shifted his weight slightly. Then Tae reappeared from the back of the restaurant and positioned himself in a way that made the exit behind the three men no longer a comfortable option. The man near the door looked at Tae. Then at Kang's guards. Then across the room at Kang. Kang looked back at him with a specific and complete stillness that required no translation. The three men left. Not quickly. They were careful about that. Careful enough to suggest they had been trained to leave without appearing to flee. But they left. The restaurant settled back around itself. The waiter who had paused near the kitchen resumed walking. The two women at the table by the wall picked up their conversation. The ordinary afternoon sounds returned, cutlery and low voices and the muffled noise of the street outside. Naomi let out a breath she had been holding so carefully it had been almost invisible. Then Mia and Nia were back at the table. They had not waited to be called. Mia came around to her mother's side and pressed in close. Naomi wrapped her arm around her immediately. Nia sat down across from Kang and looked at him directly. "They found us," Nia said. "Yes," Kang said. "How?" "You have been moving in a pattern without realizing it. They mapped it." Nia absorbed this. "So we cannot keep moving the same way." "You are not going to keep moving at all," he said. Naomi looked at him. "Not tonight," he said. "Not tomorrow. Not until this is resolved properly." "Kang, you have been managing this alone for 2 years," he said. "You have done it well. You kept them safe and you kept moving and you did what needed to be done with what you had." He paused. "But those men just walked into a restaurant in the middle of the afternoon. They are not being cautious anymore. That means they are close to something and they know it." Naomi said nothing. "If you leave tonight you will not make it to the next city," he said. Not cruelly. Just clearly. "You know that." She looked at her daughters. Mia was watching her with those large careful eyes. Nia was watching Kang, then her mother, then Kang again, tracking the conversation like someone keeping score. Naomi looked back at Kang. "What are you proposing?" she said. "You stay where I can make sure you are protected," he said. "All three of you. While I deal with Park directly." "Deal with him how?" "The way things like this are dealt with," he said simply. She looked at him for a long moment. "I do not want the girls near anything that." "They will not be near anything," he said. "They will be somewhere safe with people I trust. You have my word on that." "Your word," she said. "Yes." She held his gaze. "You understand why I need more than that." "I do," he said. "And I understand it is going to take time before my word means what it once meant to you. I am not asking you to trust me completely today." He paused. "I am asking you to trust me enough. For now." The table held that. Mia looked up at her mother. "Mom," she said softly. Naomi looked down at her. "He did not let them take us," Mia said. Simply. Quietly. The way she said everything like a person reporting something they had observed and found to be true, and saw no reason to dress up in anything more complicated than it was. Naomi looked at her daughter for a long moment. Then she closed her eyes briefly. Then she opened them and looked at Kang. "One condition," she said. "Tell me. The girls are with me. Wherever you put us we are together. I do not care what the arrangements are or how crowded it is. They do not leave my sight." "Agreed," he said immediately. She nodded. Once. Small and tight and final. Nia sat forward. "And the marrying our mother part," she said. "Nia." Naomi's voice was low. "We came here for 2 reasons. Nia said. The protection was one. The other one is still on the table. Kong looked at her. Nia looked back at him with the complete calm of a person who had identified what she wanted and intended to wait as long as necessary for it. One thing at a time, Kong said. Nia considered this. You said that before. I mean it the same way I meant it before. Which means you have not said no. He looked at her steadily. It means one thing at a time. Nia sat back. She was not satisfied, but she was willing to wait. The expression on her face said clearly that she was filing this away and had every intention of returning to it at the earliest appropriate moment. Nia looked at Kong. Thank you, she said quietly. He looked at her. She held his gaze with those steady eyes and did not look away. For not leaving, she said. When we came to your table, you could have told us to go away. You did not. He was quiet for a moment. No, he said. I did not. Mia nodded, satisfied in her quiet way, and leaned back into her mother's side. Kong stood. He looked at Tae, who was already coordinating with the other guards near the entrance. He looked at Naomi. Do you have things at the guest house? A bag each, she said. Nothing we cannot leave behind if we have to. We will send someone for them. He looked at the twins. Are you ready? Mia stood immediately, adjusting her backpack straps. Nia stood and looked at Kong with an expression that was trying to be composed, and was fighting a small quiet battle with something warmer underneath it. Where are we going? She said. Somewhere safe, he said. You said that before too. It was true then. It is true now. She thought about this. Then she reached up and took his hand. He looked down at her small hand in his, then up at her face. She was looking straight ahead at the restaurant door. Chin up, shoulders back, already moving forward. He closed his fingers around hers and they walked toward the exit together. Naomi followed with Mia tucked under her arm. She watched Nia walking beside Kong, that small hand in his large one, and something in her chest moved in a way she did not have a clean word for. Relief and grief and something else entirely. Something that had been waiting a very long time to put its weight down and was finally, in the middle of a quiet Wednesday afternoon, being allowed to do exactly that. Outside the air was warm and the street was ordinary, and the city continued around them without noticing or caring that anything significant had just happened inside that restaurant. Mia looked up at the sky for a moment. Then she tilted her face toward her mother and whispered, so quietly that only Naomi heard it. I knew he was our dad. Naomi heard it. She did not answer. But she pressed Mia closer and kept walking, and for the first time in 2 years her steps did not feel like she was moving away from something. They felt like she was walking toward something. Something that had been waiting. The car was already at the curb when they reached the door. Tae held it open. The twins climbed in first, Mia sliding to the window, Nia sitting upright in the middle already watching everything. Kong held the door for Naomi. She stopped beside him for a moment. Just a moment. Close enough that she kept her voice very low. 8 years is a long time, she said. It is, he said. There is a lot between us that is still unresolved. There is. This is not simple. No, he said. It is not. She looked at him. He looked at her. Between them the afternoon was warm and the street was busy, and somewhere in the car behind them Nia was telling Mia something in a low urgent voice that had the particular tone of a child who had decided something important, and was sharing it with the only person whose opinion she fully trusted. But you are not walking away, Naomi said. It was not quite a question. No, he said. I am not. She held his gaze for one more moment. Then she got in the car. He stood for a second on the curb before following. Inside, Nia looked up at him as he settled into the seat across from them. So, she said. What happens now? Kong looked at his daughters. Both of them. With the full knowledge of what he was looking at and who they were to him and what it actually meant, Not as an idea, not as a possibility, but as a fact that was sitting right here in front of him in a car on a Wednesday afternoon with backpacks and neat braids and 8 years of life he had not been part of. "Now," he said, "I make sure nothing touches you." Nia looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Slowly. The way she nodded when she had decided something was true, and was giving it her full acceptance. Mia smiled. Small and warm and real. And Naomi, sitting beside her daughters with the afternoon sun coming through the car window and falling across all of them, looked at the man sitting across from her and felt, for the first time in a very long time, like the world had stopped being something to run from. The car pulled away from the curb. The city moved past the windows. And one of the twins, it was impossible to tell which one because their voices were exactly the same, whispered very softly into the warm afternoon air of the car, "I knew he was our dad." Nobody corrected her, because nobody needed to. If this story moved you today, please take one moment to like this video, leave us a comment with your favorite part, and subscribe to this channel for more Afro-Korean romance stories so you never miss an episode. Every story we tell is made with care, and your support is what keeps them coming. We will see you in the next one.